Hello class, welcome to the third week of the sixth cycle. Today we're going to be learning about fishing regulations, popular sport fishing in Texas, some vocabulary for fishing, mercury in fish, seafood watch, mercury advisory, and we're going to try to introduce a project if we have enough time. Again, just like last week, we're going to have quite a bit of material to cover, so we're going to be moving along really quickly. So for the warm-up for today, I wanted to talk a little bit about the requirements for a fishing license. So I recently renewed my fishing license. Let's just go over some of the things that I want you guys to take from this. And this is just kind of like what we would have had for a warm-up. There's underlined portions that I want you to look at. So any person who takes or attempts to take a fish, mussel, clam, crayfish, or other aquatic life in public waters of Texas must have a current fishing license with the appropriate stamp endorsement. So I went and got a saltwater and freshwater endorsement so I could fish in both of those places. One of the things that I also wanted you guys to know about was that you can fish in state parks. That's what it says right here. So a fishing license and stamp endorsement are not required in fishing on state park property or in waters completely enclosed by a state park. The other thing is private water and private land. There's a couple of different things. If it's your own private water and you have permission from the landowners, you can actually fish as many fish as you'd like. But just the same, you can't unlawfully go into someone's property and fish their private water. Another thing that you can't do, so now we're going to go into violation. So it is a violation to take, kill, or disturb sea turtles or turtle eggs. They are protected. You can't take, kill, or disturb any endangered or threatened species. Examples of these are the paddlefish, shovel-nosed sturgeon, small-toothed sawfish, and others. The next one is it's a violation to place game fish into public waters other than the bodies of water where the fish are caught. So this is to avoid any invasive species. One such invasive species is a lionfish in Florida, where you have their reproductive numbers are really large, and they basically started to encroach into a lot of the native species that are in Florida. And so people are trying to get individuals to fish for these or hunt for these lionfish because they're detrimental. They're bad for all the other ecosystems and fishes that are native to Florida. It's also a violation to uproot or dig out any rooted seagrass plants. And you're not supposed to waste fish. I'm mentioning this one just because I think it's really important that if you do end up getting bait fish, it must be used. So make sure that when you are casting a net and you do catch a lot of fish, more bait fish than you need, it's important that you use all of it or release the rest. One last thing was, while fishing, it is illegal to be in possession of more fish than the daily bag limit or fish that are within a protected length limit. And we'll be going over all of these kind of details in today's lecture. All right, so today we're going to be talking about marine sport fish in Texas, and we're just going to be covering a few of the main species that are really popular within the state of Texas to go fishing for. There's a bunch of videos throughout all of this. We're not going to be able to play any of them because they're just a little bit too long and we just don't have enough time. I'm trying to keep all of these videos within a 15-minute limit. So I am going to link a lot of the videos that I do want you to see. But again, this PowerPoint is going to be uploaded. You'll be able to click on each of these and see all of them if you'd like. But the really important ones, I'll be linking them as well as attachments. And so we're going to go ahead and move on to the very first species of fish that's popular as a sport fish within Texas, and it's the sheephead, or the Archosargus probactocephalus. I'm not really going to test you guys on the scientific name of that, but really just remember sheep's head. I think another common name for it is the convict fish because it has those red and white stripes, kind of like the old school prison uniforms, right? So a sheep's head. And this is another image of what a sheep's head looks like. You can see it has these spiny rays on its dorsal fin and under here. And those will poke you. The danger with a lot of these spines or ray-finned organisms is that if you do get pricked, it's not so much the prick that is dangerous, but the bacteria that lives, or the slime that coats a lot of these fishes, that can be really dangerous. The same with catfish, the barbs that they have. So another picture of the sheep's head. What's really unique about them is their mouth. Check out those set of teeth. They look like human teeth. You can imagine they kind of look like sheep's teeth. If you've ever looked at a sheep's tooth or set of teeth, you can see that they just don't have that one set of rows. So they have teeth, bony plates to crush barnacles, crabs, and crustaceans. So if you're ever looking to try to get these, like at South Padre Island or anywhere else, if you're going, you want to look for pylons or anywhere you can see barnacles or crabs kind of accumulating, because that's what they go. What's what they primarily eat on. Next, we're going to cover the redfish. The redfish is part of the drum family. It's also known as a red drum. And so redfish usually has black dots by the tail. And you can see this one has more speckled regions. Again, that black dot on the tail. And so again, we're not going to go through these videos, but if you'd like to see them on your own, you may. The next fish that we're going to cover is the flounder. And this is a flat fish. Notice it has two eyes on one side. And it disguises itself by laying flat, and it swims sideways all of its life. This fish is really unique in that it kind of covers itself with sand to try to disguise itself, and it mainly lives on the substrate on the bottom of the sea floor. And it's not born with these two eyes on the same side, and this is what we're going to be talking about next, which is that they're born with eyes on both sides of their heads, and then one eye migrates to the other side of the head. And so there's this metamorphosis that it undergoes as it develops. It's really unique. And in this video, you can watch that metamorphosis. Some scientists have looked at it embryonically, and they're just kind of taking pictures of that eye moving from one side of the fish to the other, and it migrates, and that's how it survives. It swims almost sideways all of its life. Next, we're going to be talking about the speckled sea trout, and you can really identify the speckled sea trout by those speckles or spotted region from the midway to the back. And so here you can see the speckled or spotted sea trout has these little dots right here. And again, those dots are right here. Next, we're going to cover the black drum, and so this is in the same family of the redfish, except it's gray. It's a gray or black color, and so it kind of looks like the redfish, but it's just gray in color and no spots on the tail. All right, so we're going to go over some vocabulary, kind of covering what's important to kind of understand when we're going to be dealing with fishing. So one word that you need to know when you're talking about fishing in Texas is daily bag. So this is how many one person can keep in a day. And so here you see all these bass strung up. And for bass, you have to have, I think it's 5 of any type, and they have to also be a certain size. And so for every one person can have 5 largemouth bass. So if you see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, you need to have at least 2 people that caught all of these, right? Because if you didn't, you would be in trouble with game wardens. So game wardens are the people who are going to be responsible for regulating and keeping these things in check to make sure that people aren't violating these rules, because they want to make sure that everyone has enough fish to catch and enjoy. Next, we're going to have a slot limit. A slot limit is having a minimum and a maximum size that you can keep. So what exactly does that mean? So it means throwing the small ones and the large ones back and keeping the middle-sized ones. The little ones haven't gotten large enough to basically reproduce, and the large ones, well, you want to keep those so that they can continue to reproduce. So you want to keep the whoppers so that they can kind of continue that lineage of creating very, very large fish. And so you take the middle ones, the ones that have already reproduced, and have basically maxed out at their size. All right, measuring fish. So measuring fish is really more dependent on the species of fish, but for the most part, a lot of the fish that we fish for here in the coastal regions and in freshwater, you end up putting the closed mouth of the fish up to a ruler, and then you pinch the tail, and then at the very tip of the tail is where you would measure the total length. This is not the case for certain coastal fish that have kind of like a meaty tail. Amberjacks, I think, is one that you cannot really bend the tail to actually find the total length. So not all fish are measured this way. This is mainly for ray-finned tails of fish. Next, we're going to be talking about what a run is. We did discuss a little bit of this term last week when we were talking about salmon. So when many fish move at the same time after some environmental cue. And so a run in salmon basically means when they go back upstream. Substrate is the earthy material that exists in the bottom of a marine habitat like dirt, rock, sand, or gravel. A spawn is when a fish lays eggs and they are fertilized. And so the female will basically release her eggs and the male will release his milt. That's fish sperm. Next, we have a red. A red is the gravel nest that a female salmon digs in the bottom of the stream to lay eggs in. Next, we have a quota. The quota is the government only allowing so many fish to be caught per year. So when we were talking about the orange roughy in last week's video, usually there's a quota where fishermen can only take a certain amount of tons of fish, so that way they're not overfishing that certain species. So some fishing regulations. Some fish have a minimum size to keep, like a sheep's head. So sheep's head, they have to be 15 inches it doesn't matter how big they get, but you can only take 5 per day. And then there's some fish that have a slot limit, and it can't be too small, and you have to let the big ones back to spawn. So redfish have to be over 20, but they can't be larger than 28, and you can only take 3 per day. So here we're going to be looking at some videos. I will be uploading these videos from the Texas Parks and Wildlife Department.